We are talking about mental health issues, gun issues, school safety with Palm Beach County School Superintendent Robert Avossa and Martin County Sheriff William Snyder. I first want to show you statistics. These came from the New York Times. Since the shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary in 2012, there have been, if we can put that on screen, at least 239 school shootings in the United States. 438 people shot, 138 killed. As we talk about change and the need for change, and sadly now Marjorie Stoneman Douglas has added to that long roster. Talk about, first of all, what's being done in the Palm Beach County school system, for instance. A lot of people talk about the need for armed guards. You already have that. Talk about what you're doing now, what's changed in the last few years.
So since Sandy Hook, the school district did invest much more in our police department. We have the second largest police department in the county, only behind the sheriff. We collaborate, train with them, we get advice from them. We also, unfortunately, have to practice active shooters.
And you do have armed personnel at schools?
We do. They are sworn officers. They are all armed, many of which also have long rifles. You know, unfortunately, we do have to provide them all those tools.
Sheriff, in Martin County, what's the scenario there in terms of, do you supply all of that, or do the schools have that independently?
No, in Martin County, the Sheriff's Office supplies all armed protection to the schools. So every one of our high schools and every one of our middle schools has a sworn Martin County Sheriff's deputy. In addition, we have roving deputies that are assigned in the SRO program that go to the private schools, the grade schools. We do practice active shooter. Everyone in the Sheriff's Office practices it. Our SWAT teams have been through the schools. We're getting the layouts of every school downloaded in our computer system. So in the event of an active shooter, dispatch can say, hey, the cafeteria is here. We are,
and you know.
Yeah, we're becoming increasingly sophisticated. You know, something to keep in mind is that as security increases, personal liberty always decreases.
And that is the tough balancing act that we're facing in this country. Others have argued that we need more single point of entry to schools. Yep. Many school administrators say that's impractical on sprawling campuses. Others have said we need magnetometers at every entranceway. I know that Alberto Carvalho, the Miami-Dade school superintendent, had said, listen, I think mental health care and mental health aspect trumps the magnetometers anytime, and also the cost component of that. But your take on that, are we going to, do we need schools that have more in terms of physical security, in terms of magnetometers and the like, which even as I say it, my head shakes.
I think this, I think every time we have one of these instances, we will move closer and closer to a fully secure environment. Some people call the Israeli methodology adequate because they've never had a school situation like this. But what that
But they don't also have the proliferation of guns that we have either in the public, in the public realm.
Yeah, anyway, notwithstanding that, and to be completely secure, you probably would have to have one entry. It would have to be manned by armed law enforcement. You'd have to have metal detectors and then restrict the coming and going. Probably maybe someday move to where all backpacks are clear. I'm not advocating any of this. I'm just saying
it's part of the discussion.
That's the direction that I think we're moving in.
I think that's good thinking, but there's also some impractical pieces to that. So having been a principal of a large high school, I will tell you almost all of our schools already have single point of entry. That was part of our investment after Sandy Hook. If I understand this case where this child actually shot people, etc., this school was well trained, they practiced, they also had an armed police officer, and they also had a single point of entry where people have to go in, check in to make known who they are. If you have an outdoor playground, so that means kids can't play outside anymore? You know, I mean, so at what point do you, I mean, what are we going to build? Prisons so that, you know, there's a 100-foot wall around every school?
But to the sheriff's point, it's part of the sad debate we're having about the personal liberty you give up in terms of the safety. And again, we're not advocating, you're not advocating for those positions, but it's part of the almost dystopian conversation that we're beginning to see happen in this country. In our remaining moments, and we know that we can only begin to touch on these issues, and we appreciate both of you as public servants willing to do that. As you rightly said, we could talk about any of this for hours on end. Final thoughts from you, and I know see something, say something to you, Superintendent, it's important. Bring that up, your final closing thoughts, and Sheriff, then yours. So
we've been pushing that for a while, and I'll have to tell you, I'm so proud of the students at Palm Beach Lakes who identified a rumor that they had heard. We went to apprehend this child, and in fact, he had 2 weapons with him on Thursday, the day after the shooting. So it works when people act on it. In this case, the kids, the community told the FBI, as I understand it, and they did not follow through and respond. Sheriff Bradshaw and I, next week coming up, we are going to be announcing a new way for kids and parents to provide anonymous tips right here in Palm Beach County without having to worry about repercussions. They don't need to call the FBI. They can go right on an app and tell us what's going on.
Closing thought, Sheriff Snyder.
My closing thought, Michael, and I touched on it before, until we have a revival of traditional values in America, until families are strong enough to take care of their own children, until moms and dads or whoever the caretaker gets their children off constant social media, until we move back to a more values-driven society, no amount of gun control, no amount of single entry, no amount of anything we do will turn the tide on what's going on in this country.
Thank you both for your eloquence and your concern on a topic that has engaged, sadly, the nation yet again. We appreciate you coming in and sharing your thoughts. Hope it has given you more at home, as so many of us have been doing with our loved ones at home, talking about this. We thank you for coming in and sharing your insights, and we'll be back in just a moment.